Tomorrow on the program, actress Catherine O'Hara. And ladies and gentlemen, Anton Fig. Hi. Anton Fig, our drummer, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you, Anton. What brings you over here?
Well, I was just over there playing the drums like I do every night, and I thought tonight I'd stop over and say hi.
Yeah. It's a very nice surprise. What have you been up to?
Well, I've been over there playing drums with the band most of the time.
And what brings you here tonight?
Well, I wanted to remind the people that I have something special coming up on NBC tomorrow night.
Oh, really? What is that?
Well, I'll be over there playing with Paul and the band.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. We'll certainly look forward to that.
Thanks. I hate to run, but I gotta go and play.
Anton's been acting rather strange lately, hasn't he?
Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the Extraordinary Drummer Show. I'm your host, as you know, Cheron Moore. My guest today on the show, this is one gentleman I really want to talk to. I've enjoyed his drum playing for years and years. One of the cleanest drummers you ever want to meet. One of the all-around, all-purpose drummers. Play any style of music, any artist. Wait to hear some of the lineup. You all know him. You all love them. You've watched them day in and day out for many, many years on the hit show, the David Letterman Show, the talk show. Well, this gentleman was the drummer of that show. He's also known for studio sessions. He's an educator. I read somewhere where he's an actor.
We use that term very loosely, yeah.
His credits include, now listen to this, Bob Dylan, B.B. King, James Brown, which we're going to talk about, Paul McCartney. He's backed these people up and so many more. We know him from the CBS Orchestra, which helped me welcome from the David Letterman Show, Anton Fig. Hey, Anton.
Great to be here, man. Thanks for having me on. You know, I lucky I got to play with a lot of people, but some of the people I just played one time. You know, it was just happened to be like on the show or, you know, some big event. But, you know, technically I've played with a tremendous amount of people. You know, there's only a handful of people I've played with like a lot and over again. But, you know, I can put their name down on paper and technically I have played with them at some point or another.
Welcome to the Extraordinary Drummer Show.
Yeah. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're absolutely astounded and glad to have you here. Before I get started in the interview, let me ask you this one. How you holding up, Anton, with all this COVID-19 and all of this quarantine stuff?
Yeah, you know, it's crazy because I've been touring with Joe Bonamassa. He's a rock blues player. Plays like, you know, it's a great band. And we were in Minneapolis touring. He tours a lot. And they pulled us off the road. And this was last March. So basically, you know, like everyone else for the last year, I've just been home. But, you know, I've got like a little studio and the Pro Tools and all that stuff. And so I've been recording, doing different, you know, drum takes for people and also doing a little bit of film music and just trying to make the time as creative as I can. And, you know, since I was on the road quite a bit, it was great being home. And I would just work in my studio a lot of the time. It was, you know, actually a pretty creative time for me. But, you know, you lose your road chops, that's for sure. You know, not that I had that many anyway, but the little I had, they're gone.
Are you still in New York or have you gotten out of there?
I do live in New York, but I'm at the moment, I have a place outside of the city. And so I've been staying here because it's a lot easier than in the city during this whole time.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Let me take you all the way back, Anton. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. I read where you're from Cape Town, South Africa?
Right.
Wow.
Right. So that was, and you know, when I was growing up there, we didn't have TV. So I never saw TV till I came to America. we didn't have snow. I never saw any, it was summer all the time, just about. But and no people used to come down there. There was no videos, and you couldn't really. The only way you could learn was from records or like local musicians, and so it made sense for me to just try and play lots of different kinds of things because I would get just as much enjoyment, whatever I was playing. Felt like fun, although I think in my heart of hearts, I'm probably just like a basic rock drummer. That's like kind of what I do the best, I think. Yeah.
I read where you started playing drums at age 4.
Yeah, I don't remember ever deciding to play the drums. I just was always playing. So it was almost, and probably like a lot of people, a lot of the drummers who you talk to, it was like I didn't choose the drums, just like the drums chose me or whatever. And it was just like I always loved the sound of them. If I heard drums, I was just gravitated towards it, and I loved to listen to it. And so I was hitting on pots and pans, like started like everyone else, and then. When I was 6, my grandfather bought me a bass drum and a snare drum, and every year he added like a tom-tom and, on my birthday. And then by the time I was 10, I had a kid. And by the time I was 20, I had a double bass drum, kid and toms. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so then I had this little kid, and I would play gigs, with friends. And we started off, we play all kinds of music. And then when the whole English invasion thing happened, and that was the Beatles, Stones, Hendrix, Cream, all that kind of stuff, I really got a big charge out of that and really got into that.
What was the high school scene like for you with the drums?
There was no music really in high school, but I had friends outside of, from different schools that we would play with and have bands. I pretty much had bands from the age 8 till I left South Africa, which was at age 17. I played in different bands. Our band won the Battle of the Bands one time, and we had a real popular band locally. It was really popular. And then I always wanted to come to America because that's where like the best people were, and I wanted to come and hear them live and see what was going on.
Tell me about the band. I might say this wrong. Hammock?
Oh, yeah. Jeez. How do you know about that? Well, anyway, it was Hammock, and the name really was just the initials of the people in the band, the first initials. But we were so popular enough that people were making up their own theories as to what the name meant. And there was all these stories. It was a very popular band in Cape Town. And we played some originals, some cover stuff. For some reason, the band caught on. It was like a little mini phenomenon. Well, I haven't heard that name. I haven't heard, no one's pulled out that name before.
Tell me about moving to Boston.
Well, I went to, I wanted to come to America, and my folks said you have to if you're coming, you've got to try and get a degree. And so I applied to New England Conservatory, and it was weird because I applied for the jazz department and they accepted me into the classical department. And I really don't know why or how I got in, but somehow I got in. And then I did both degrees at the same time. And at the end of the whole thing, they said you can have whichever one you want. So I said, well, I'll just get the classical degree. But I studied with Vic Firth. He was my teacher in Boston.
In 1976, you moved to New York City.
Yeah. Well, it was time. School was done and it was time to move down. Then when I got to New York, people were saying, you got to get back to your roots. And at that point, I thought, well, my roots were in rock. So I started to get back into rock music. And then the world really opened up for me because now I'd come to rock with it, being a rock player and having all this jazz influence from all my time in Boston. And that sort of made me a slightly different player at the time from the rock drummers. It gave me a slightly different sound.
Tell me about being a band member in the Spider Band.
Yeah, it's another old name. There was a band with some people in South Africa. They were in Hamok, actually. And we formed a band in New York. And it was a really good band. It didn't make it, but, you know, we had the song Better Be Good to Me, the Tina Turner hit, which she copied almost the same, but it was off our record. She took the song from us. And but she had a lot better success with it than we did. But it was a really fantastic band. And through that band, we were auditioning bass players. And the guy said, I got a friend, Ace Frehley from Kiss, and he's looking for a drummer for his solo project, and I'll recommend you. And so that's how I got to work with Ace Frehley from Kiss. And then through that, when I think Peter Criss was, he broke his arm and they needed a drummer. So then I got to ghost on the Kiss records, and I did a couple of Kiss records, although they didn't say it was me. I didn't have to wear makeup, but I played on the records.
Yeah, Anton, you didn't miss wearing those 6-inch
Yeah.
heels and
Damn, yeah. Oh well, it's too bad.
I'd have loved to see you in that makeup, man.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, it's funny because Ace told me that when they went to Japan, they all came off the plane in their makeup and they went through customs, and the customs people went, "We don't know who you are," and they made them take it all off.
Oh no!
So I got spared that. Yeah.
You worked on the Dynasty album?
I did Dynasty and I did Unmasked as well. So it was like I Was Made for Loving You, their big kind of disco hit in the, I forget what year it was, early 80s or late 70s. So I played on that. I did the whole record except I think Peter ended up doing one song.
Before I get to the David Letterman Show and the CBS Orchestra, let's talk a little bit of drum stuff. You are an all-around drummer, man. Play anything for anybody, know the exact feel, the time period, the chops, what the roles were in that time period. Where did all of that come from? How did you dial that in?
I just had heard it. I'd heard a lot of the records, and I didn't always play it exactly like the record, but I've always had the theory that if you play something with a really good feel, you know, it's going to work. And what separates the different kinds of music is just nuances, different nuances, and a little bit of different language. So if you can just play it with the right feel and then throw in some of the language that's specific to that kind of style of music, you can, you know, get by and make it work. Now, suppose if someone only played one thing, they would be more deep into it than I could ever be. But I was into it deep enough that I could play with pretty heavy people in any category, you know, for a while. I don't know, you know, at that time. And that's what you needed to do the Letterman Show.
1976, joined the Letterman Show with Paul Schaefer. How did that come about? How did you get that gig?
Well, I had played on a couple of records with Paul and Will and Hiram. We did Joan Armatrading's Me, Myself, I record, and also did Paul Butterfield's record with Paul. And I would say to him, look, when Steve Jordan can't make it, because Steve used to take off time and do other things, you know, let me sub on the show. Anyway, it never happened. And then one day they came down, I was playing in New York with Robert Gordon, and they came down and they were, Paul and Will were in the audience, and I knew they were kind of checking me out. And a few weeks later, I got a call, Steve's away for a week, and can you come down for a rehearsal and maybe do the week? So I played the rehearsal, and they said, well, he's away for 2 weeks, actually, and you can play for 2 weeks. So I did that, and Steve came back, and then a few weeks later, Paul called me up and said, Steve's going to be leaving the show, and we really like the way you've subbed, and the gig's yours if you want it. It was crazy. I mean, a life-changing out of nowhere, you know, crazy.
What was it like the first few days when you came in? Were you a little nervous? What was it like getting adjusted?
You know, it was fine. I think I got nervous like later. It was like a delayed reaction. I was fine right in the beginning, and then it was like, whoa, what the hell's going on? You know, then like a few months later, you know.
You ever pinch yourself and say, wow?
I feel, you know, I feel really lucky because it's not like I feel like I'm any better than anyone else. You know, I just really love what I'm doing, and I somehow got into the, I never would have thought from South Africa that I would come to America and get to do all the stuff that I got to do. So yeah, I do pinch myself and that, but at the same time, I kind of keep trying to look ahead and see what to do next and what to do in the future. I don't think back all that much about what's happened.
You were with the, how many years were you with the David Letterman Show?
It was 29. I think like Steve did the first 4 years, and then I did the, or 5 years, and I did the last 29.
29
Yeah, it's
years.
crazy. And you know, it's crazy. I mean, it was such a gig, and I did it. It was like 15-minute, 17-minute walk from my house in the city. So I would like just go there, and it was very quick. We'd go there, we'd rehearse, we'd do the show, go home. It was only about 3.5 hours, or you know, out of the day. So you could do sessions in the morning, you could do gigs at night, and it was crazy. I could have dinner at home, you know, with my family and all that stuff. It was a crazy.
What's it like working? What's it like working with David? What is he like?
Well, he's fantastic. He's a private guy, but he was always very nice to me, and I always felt very supportive by him.
Moving you forward, let's talk about your solo project, Figments.
Yeah.
The album Figments.
Yeah. So
tell me about it.
I did that a while ago. I always wanted to do a record, but you know, back in the day, you had to have money from a record company to go in a studio. Now that there's like digital in the home, you know, you can make your own record, and everybody does. This was done in quite a while ago, like in early 2000s.
What was it like playing at Royal Albert Hall or Albert Hall?
Yeah, you know, I've now played there maybe 5 times or something.
Wow.
Yeah, with Joe Bonamassa, pretty much. The first time I played there, I was still on the Letterman Show, and he had a touring band, but the producer brought me in, and we did 2 drummers. They brought me in for the concert, and so I flew down to London, did a couple warm-up shows, and then, you know, did this material I didn't really know very well. And Clapton sat in with us, so I got to play a song with Clapton in the Royal Albert Hall, which is pretty special, a great blues. And then subsequently, after the Letterman Show ended, I ended up joining Joe pretty much permanently, and have played the Royal Albert Hall, I don't know, a bunch of times, maybe 5 times with him.
Anton, we have a thing on the show that we do, we call Word of Advice, where I ask the drummers if they would leave a word of advice for the upcoming drummers, and even the guys that are at the next level, but that are trying to get traction in this business, trying to get to the next level. Would you leave them a word of advice, please?
Always take a leak before you get on stage. I guess, you know, it does come in handy when you play a 2.25 hour set. But, you know, no, I think the thing is I always, you know, love to play because that's what I really love to do. I didn't get into drums for any other reason other than loving what drums did. And so I would say to do what you love to do and just follow it and see how far, you know, see where it takes you. And it's going to be all kinds of twists and turns, and just keep trying to improve. And that's what I keep trying to improve. That's all I do.
me ask you this one. Have all your dreams come true, and what's next? I mean, you play with everybody, been everywhere, seen everything. Have all those dreams come true, and what's next? What else out there on the horizon that you would like to do that you still haven't done?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer. I mean, and especially with this pause with the COVID for the year, it's hard to, maybe stopping gives everyone a chance to take a breath and then start again and see what it's, reevaluate, or, who knows how we'll all play coming back again, and, from having quite a bit of having to sit back, so it's hard to know. I think it's important to get back into it and see where it leads to. I certainly feel like extremely fortunate for everything that I've done. I would still like to be a whole lot better than I am. And so, I listen to guys, so, I don't know what to say. I just go out and just see what happens.
Yeah,
When you hear, you send me that young kid, Donovan. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And like all the guys, you see all the guys now, it's like, I know like people get, like records get broken with athletes every decade, every year, whatever. What's happened to the drummers? I mean, it's a different instrument than when I started, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, it's inspiring, but it's like, I don't know how the guys do what they do.
yeah, yeah. And again, that's another whole show right there, boy. 'Cause
Yeah.
it is different talking to the different generations of drummers.
Right.
This is another question that I always ask the drummers in closing. What would you want your legacy to be? What would you want? How would you want the legacy to be said, to be told?
I suppose I'd be happy with it. They just said he had a great feel, and, he had our back when he played. And, he was the real deal. He was one of the guys, who could play. That would be fine for me if anyone ever says something like that.
It's a question I should have put in the middle of the show, and I should have put it in the middle of the show. I forgot to write it in my notes, and it just came to me. Let's talk about endorsements before I let you go. What drums are you playing? What are you doing cymbal-wise, so on and so forth?
Yeah, so I've ever since the Spider days, I got a Zildjian endorsement with Spider back in that's early 80s. And so I was really happy that I could kind of repay them by having the cymbals on the Letterman Show. When you got like a high profile gig, the Yamaha sign, I couldn't get Yamaha drums. I got them on the Letterman Show. I got them after that, but they've been like really good to me. So it's pretty much Yamaha Zildjian. But they said that the Yamaha sign was the most seen logo on one of the most seen logos on television, because it's right behind Paul's head. And whenever they switched to Paul, which they did quite a bit on the show, you saw the Yamaha on the bass drum. And at one point they even asked me if I would take it off, and I said no. And so, and then I use also Evans. I got my Evans sticks and the Promark sticks and the Evans heads. But when I have been touring with Joe, I actually got the setup because we're playing like 3,000 seat places. They were all like huge hi-hats, 16-inch hi-hats, and then everything was 20 crash, 20 ride, 20 crash. That's what I was using. And because you need to push some air with the crashes, but they were thin crashes. And the ride was like a custom ride that didn't spread too much so that you could hear the definition of the stick. And, I have my signature snare with Yamaha, which is a fantastic snare drum. that was, I think, their bestseller or one of their bestsellers. It's a great drum with the wooden hoops. And I've got a beautiful Phoenix Yamaha kit that I used on the show that I thought this kit is way too nice to be sitting in a room somewhere. And so I take it out on the show. I like to, use my stuff that I have. And then I've sort of collected a few things along the way. I had a Ludwig kit that I got when I was 16 in South Africa and brought it back here. And I break it out sometimes, and some other makes and stuff. But, I sort of think like all you need is one set of drums, really, and you'll spend your whole life learning how to play it.
Anton, let me say thank you so much for being on the Extraordinary Drummer Show. Oh,
thank you for putting me in the group of all the drummers that you have there. It's fantastic. I'm very honored, and it's really nice to talk to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Will you help me wave goodbye to all the guys?
What's that?
Will you help me wave goodbye?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'll do a two-hander. Yeah. Have mercy. Yeah.
Thank you again, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, great, man. Thanks a lot.